Greetings, my name is Jace Hargis, and I'd like to share a really brief overview of inquiry-based, project-based learning. So the concept here, which I feel very passionate about, is this concept of inquiry, curiosity. And I think that many times as learners, we are naturally curious, young people are naturally curious, and then we kind of do something funky with education, and maybe we lose our track sometimes with really trying to help navigate through this natural, curious inquiry mind. The one thing that I do want to express is that some people get a few of these terminologies confused. I use inquiry-based as kind of the beginning and a derivative of what people may see as the Socratic Method. The Socratic Method obviously is basically student-centered. It's kind of how we come to know things. You're constructing these meaning, a bit of constructivism, but the bottom line is that it's a lot of people asking questions back and forth, and questions are valued more than answers. And also, along with inquiry, there is this three-legged stool approach. Piaget calls this the disequilibrium, and we have to accommodate or assimilate. So confusion in this context is actually good. I know sometimes it's painful to be a little frustrated, and there is a fine line between over frustration and confusion, but there's some recent research that indicates that those in the right proportions are actually very productive. Characteristics, obviously, is that you're generating, the teacher is just a facilitator. They're not obviously the one with all the answers. There's these questions, and that's what they really bring in. They bring in these prompts and cues and things that keep the students engaged, keep the students to kind of continue to ask more questions. To do that, they have to use some sort of taxonomy, typically Bloom's, kind of helps them walk along these. And ultimately, there's some sort of a tangible artifact, could be electronic, but a tangible artifact that represents this inquiry. I like this kind of representation because I'm going to share with you project, problem, all these different collaboration-based ideas, but the bottom line is that they all have some sort of origin-based and inquiry-based. So it's used to be kind of encompass these sub aspects. It's all research-driven, and what we really like, and I like, that's why I put this in red, is that ultimately a good inquiry-based project, inquiry-based learning, should encourage people and students to basically think and continue to think beyond those formal class times. So starting with project-based, this has become really popular fairly recently in a lot of the disciplines, but this is this concept of having some sort of sustained investigation. And the goal here is more about the process than it is the project, right? The project is all about trying to figure out what it is that they're doing, giving them these key prompts, you could call them attributes, you could call them criterias, but they need to know clearly the storyline. You know the storyline. You know exactly what it is that you want them to be able to do, the skills, knowledge, and dispositions afterwards. So the goal of good project base is for you to develop that framework. Experiential base has become more and more popular with trying to get students engaged, whether it's learning abroad, whether it's working within the local community, but this is where the students are not just doing things actively, but you help them find ways to collect that information, make sense of that information, integrate that information, most likely from some sort of an informal setting that they can then bring back to the classroom and make the connections to the theoretical frameworks that you're sharing inside of the room. Cooperative based learning, obviously this is where one of the 21st century skills, creativity, critical thinking, cooperative, collaborative, this is where we want students to not just work in teams, we want them to work effectively in teams. We want them to think about how they're making those connections. We want them to really be able to think about their skill sets and how to capitalize on some of their skill sets. A lot of that comes down to how you function and organize and create those opportunities up front. Collaborative, the cousin of cooperative obviously, this is where you're trying to help them with those joint kind of projects where they're making one connection, there's a series, there's this process that takes place, and they understand those processes, and they understand the interdependency between those two. And so basically taking sometimes an apple and an orange can come with this hybrid blended ideology. And then obviously problem-based learning. I like this concept of a wicked problem which has come up over the past couple of years, of this very difficult problem that we can solve, but takes a lot of energy and a lot of other resources. Problem-based actually differs from project-based many times, and that problem-based is basically looking at a focused problem that you're trying to solve and come up with various solutions. So thank you very much. That was a brief overview, but I hope that it's gotten you to think about inquiry-based learning and how you might incorporate all of that, some of that, or maybe multiple parts of that for different assignments that might lend themselves better for each one of those.